Hi, I'm Frank DiMatteo. I want to welcome you to another episode of Mob Candy Magazine talk show. We're here in Bay Ridge, outside a nice cafe. I got a good friend of mine, author Michael Benson, that we're going to speak today about the Red Hook book we just finished doing, Brooklyn Mafia, Ground Zero. Me and Michael wrote the book.
We wrote it in 3D.
Yes. Well, Michael can explain to you how we came about doing this. So, we introduce Michael Benson.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Frank.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, we've been partners for a while now. The book was Frank's idea. We'd done a series of books on famous gangsters. We did Carmine Persico, did Albert Anastasia. And Frank says, this time, instead of doing a gangster, let's do the neighborhood. Let's do all the history of Red Hook with an emphasis on, what you call your organized crime. And I said, that's a really great idea, because I remember James Michener used to do things like that. He would write books about Hawaii, and it would just be from the time it bubbled up from the ocean and lava until present day, be the history of the land. So we went on it, and it turned out to be pretty interesting, because Red Hook's an action-packed place.
Yes. It's, it's historical. It's a historical part of Brooklyn. Everything started from there.
We start with the Lenape Indians, and they get wiped out by the Dutch, which is the first time that there were a lot of whack-ins going on in Red Hook. From the days when it was just a village with goats and one well for the water. And then they put the docks in, and the international shipping started coming, and sure enough, as soon as there were docks, there were hoods trying to sew up the docks. And at first they were Irish. We're talking about around the beginning of the 20th century.
Well, the Irish ran Brooklyn. They ran the docks, they ran the mafia or the organized crime. They were the guys at the time.
Yeah, but they couldn't get along with each other. So one of the unintentionally funny parts of the book is the king of the hill of the White Hand. They called themselves the White Hand, the Irish mob that ran the docks at Red Hook. One guy was the head of the White Hand for 5 seconds. I mean, they would get to the top of the hill, and the guy behind him would shoot him, and then there'd be a new king of the hill, and then he'd get shot, there'd be a new king of the hill, and it went on like that for decades. So eventually we got to a leader of the White Hand that was killed by Al Capone, and that broke the chain, and pretty soon the Irish were gone, and the Italians were in.
And they took over the docks, and that's how it all started. The bloodline was the docks.
That's right. First it was Frankie Yale.
Right.
Frankie Yale got whacked by a young man making his bones named Frank Costello.
Frank Costello was on that hit. Yes. And that was ordered by Capone.
There you go. So Capone still got his hand in.
Right.
And it's Anastasia up until 1956, at which time the entire neighborhood changes because Frank DiMatteo was born.
That's right. I was born in the neighborhood. We changed. Well, it turned. I would say in about the late 30s, it changed to more Italians.
Yeah.
Really dominant Italian in the neighborhood. When I growing up, there was very few Irish left in the neighborhood. It was 90% Italian and Spanish.
Right.
Why? I don't know, but there was
because the Catholic churches, I think.
Yeah. And Assyrians.
I have no excuse for that.
Yeah, the Syrians.
I don't know why they're there.
Gavino, and that's what we grew up with. Very few Irish. That was over by the time we growing up, the 60s. And so we sat down and we wrote the book, and then we learned a lot by doing it.
Oh yeah.
We didn't know I didn't know it was such a ghetto as we grew up. Because I was used to what it looked like, and it was burnt down, lots, garbage. It was pretty bad. But like I said, we didn't notice it because
it was home.
It was home, and that's how it was.
Yeah, but when did they put up the barricade that sort of separated Red Hook into Red Hook and then Cobble Hill, and the real estate people came in and gave the nicer sections new names?
Yeah, Moses, right?
Yeah, that's right. They built the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, which was a
That had to be the 50s,
Almost
right?
went under your block.
Right? That was the 1950s, wasn't it?
Yep.
In the 50s,
Something like
they
that.
separated Red Hook to, off side of Red Hook. It was all Red Hook. The whole neighborhood was Red Hook, from what's called Red Hook now all the way to Atlantic Avenue.
Right.
It was all Red Hook. Then what happened was, after they split it, and from the tunnel and the highway, those people just got locked in there. You know?
That's right.
They got locked in there, and it was all industry. Really became commercial then.
Well, it was so isolated that there was a wild dog problem that went on for 100 years.
Right.
And the dogs neither died out, nor did they move off of Red Hook, which is basically an island by that time.
Yep.
You got the Gowanus on one side, Buttermilk Channel on the other side. You got the bay.
Yeah.
They built the Brooklyn Queens Expressway, another Moses project, so that traffic would go over Red Hook rather than through it.
And then the problem was the projects.
And they built the projects.
I think they built it for the veterans coming home originally.
Is that how it worked out, though?
No. 4 buildings. I think it was 4 buildings or 6 buildings.
Oh, boy.
think
It's still the biggest project in New York.
First one, too. And that's what separated everything. Then anything that, I don't know what to call it, but anybody, low income, all migrated to the Hook.
Right.
They all migrated to the
It's
Hook.
hard to imagine now, but when those projects opened, it was a tourist attraction.
Right.
People would come to see the brand new buildings, all identical to one another. Isn't that interesting?
Right.
But it lost its freshly scrubbed look pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And within 10 years, or maybe even less, that's where you bought your heroin if you were in New York City.
That was the ghetto. Everybody who from the other side of Red Hook would come down to score either pot or coke or drugs or heroin used to go to Red Hook.
If you wanted the Babonia,
Yeah.
you either went to Red Hook or you went to 125th Street and Lexington
That's right.
Avenue in Harlem.
Yeah. And no one went on that side unless you were copping drugs.
Right.
No. Or racing cars. Don't forget, we used to race the cars in Lawn Dock. It was a stretch of a dock that everybody used to race cars in when we were young. And that's the only reason we went down there.
Is it the racetrack now where they have they have a Grand Prix race for electric cars now?
Yeah.
It runs down there.
Yeah. It was, I mean, there was a lot of lots there too. It was really burnt down and burnt out. And
Funny story, in the late 70s, I lived at the corner of Henry and Sackett with my future wife and mother of my children. We were just shacking up, living in sin at the time, and we got the lowdown, which you don't go on the other side
of the highway.
And you don't go past 9th Street in that direction.
Right.
Now, you don't go past 9th Street in that direction because of the projects. The reason you don't cross the highway is because Frank and his friends are there.
Yeah.
And they were gangsters.
Yeah. Well, we had that side. We had the other side of Hick Street all
Right.
tied down. Columbia, Van Brunt Street. We had a couple blocks there all.
There was a mountain of bricks there.
Yeah.
Used to go steal bricks in the middle of the night and build bookshelves.
Yeah. Like I said, even our block on President Street, it was every other house was was burnt down or broke or gone.
Well, let's talk about
Like again, I never noticed it.
Yeah, right.
I never noticed it. We had more lots, more garbage in lots.
My mom said during the Depression, we didn't know we were poor.
No,
Because everybody was poor. And,
everybody was the same. Yeah.
thought everybody was waiting in line for cheese.
That's right.
But talk about the block. It's President Street,
President
between the docks and Van Brunt and
Columbia. Van Brunt. Yeah. Well, we started there probably early 50s, probably late 40s. The Gallo family bought a house there. I think it was 51 President Street.
Yep.
I think it was Mama Gallo's mother, if I'm not mistaken, or grandmother, or grandma's mother. And that's how we took roots on the block. And what happened was that whole neighborhood was to feed the longshoremen's. So all those every club that turned into a club were restaurants. They were luncheonettes. Every one of them were. And they was mainly to feed the longshoremen's. And that's why they just stood there forever, and their kids stood there, and by the time I got there, they were already embedded on that block. Family after family after family, they kept on buying more, and the whole block was semi-related. You know?
One thing you learn in the book, Red Hook, is that one of the reasons that so many Italian men went into organized crime is because their options in the legitimate world were limited.
Very limited.
I mean, you could break your back on the docks, or you could go out and you know.
And it's still the pay.
Rob a liquor store.
And the still pay was terrible. You know.
And you had to give part to your dock boss, and
yeah. If it wasn't for the thievery, you know, the swag,
right.
you wouldn't. You would starve to death.
a lot of stuff fell off the.
Yeah.
Fell
My grandfather was a longshoreman. In 1930 he started, and had to feed 6 kids. It was very hard, you know what I mean? So when something fell off came out of the docks that was swag or something like that, he had to do it too, and he was a straight guy, and he had to do it. Otherwise, you wouldn't feed 5 kids, 6 kids.
Sure.
They paid nothing those days. There was no pay. So, and that's how a lot of crime comes out of it. A lot of guys just learn.
Because nobody's happy.
Nobody's happy. They got to feed their kids. They got to feed their families. And swag was always in those days was the thing to do.
Right.
You know, it was the easiest thing to do. I mean, everything came from the docks, you know. People's stoves, liquor, you know, everything you could think of came to dope. All the dope came through the docks. I told a story one time is that many years ago, I get a phone call from a guy named Joe Castro. It says they're going to do a score at the dock. At the end of Pierpont Street, there's an overlook, I think it is.
Yeah.
That looks on there, right? And he said,
the promenade.
Promenade. He goes, you stay there. I'm going to be downstairs. They're going to throw loads of some kind of drug overboard, and then we're going to go grab it. But we need backup in case somebody comes. So we stood on top of the promenade. It was freezing night.
Is this your first score?
No, second.
Second, okay.
It was freezing. It had to be about 10 degrees, raining, and we had to get out of the car and look over, go on the promenade and watch for a flashlight was going to go on, so we know that they're picking up, right? Nothing happened. We froze to death. Froze there. About 5 o'clock in the morning, just before it got light, we turned around and we left. There's no phones, there was nothing. There's no cell phones, there's no beepers. We had nothing those days. So nothing was going on, so I left. It was three of us in the car. And we go back to a place called the Court Terrace. It was a bar run by the Gallo crew, Rocky Tramontana. Louis DeSirio owned the bar on Court Atlantic Avenue. So we went right to the bar, 5 o'clock in the morning. And there's a phone in the bar. And we must have been there 5 minutes, we get a call that, where are we? I said, where are we? It's 5 o'clock in the morning. It's getting light. Nothing happening. He goes, they just made the drop. So they made the drop. We didn't get paid because we left. We stood 7 hours in freezing weather. I wound up getting sick, and I had to go buy a pistol, and it cost me $30. I wound up losing $40 on the night. Yeah, but they got the load because they threw the load off the ship. They had hooks. They pulled it in to the pier. Pier 4, I think it was pier 3, maybe pier 3 or 4, and they pulled it in, and we just stood in the bar at 5 o'clock in the morning and started drinking. We lost everything, so we started drinking. But that was that second score we did. But everything came through the docks, and that's why in the book you'll read that was the bloodline of downtown. Every family had a grandfather, or father, or a brother working for the docks. If you didn't work for the docks, you wouldn't be down there. You know what I mean? And then they got the grocery stores, and then they took over all the Italian grocery stores and the fruit vegetable fruit markets.
So you had to buy your goods at the right store, or else you're in trouble.
Yeah, and they were all the sons or the uncles of longshoremen, right? And then a lot of longshoremen on the side were gangsters. They turned into gangsters. They wound up being good thieves, and the neighbor was
side hustle.
Yeah, and they wound up being, because a lot of crews down there, the Bafaccis, Joe Bafacci had 2 crews down there on Columbia Street, and that's how Joey Gallo and them all started, being down there, and
Now,
started.
did you guys get special olive oil because
Well,
the olive oil king was in charge?
everything that came off the ships came through President Street because they ran right down to President Street because that's where the fences were. We were fences for that. I mean, you
Right,
can come
right.
with you rob a truck of olive oil. What are you going to do with it? Yeah, you need
Make a lot of salad.
You need someone to take it. You can rob it. What are you going to sit on it? You know. So they came to us. So we had swag coming in every day. Even as a little kid, I saw stuff coming in every day. I mean, and the weirdest things. You know, what I mean, whatever came off. You know what I mean? And whatever came off, drugs. Like I said. Electronics, you know, in the war days, it was really, you know, basic stuff.
Like transistors.
Yeah,
right?
transistors came out. They robbed everything. You know, there was nothing they wouldn't rob. That they left the key for that truck. Half the time they didn't know what was in it. They said, "Take the truck,"
Right.
and that's it. And they would, and with 51, before after the jukebox was there, because it was when Joey had the jukebox business, the entertainment business. After that died out, they used that for the store the trucks. And then used to clean it out from there.
What happened to the coin-operated machine business?
After Joey went to jail, about a year after Joey went to jail, it just died out. Yeah, we just died out. Other people with money, legitimate people, got involved. And with Joey being in jail, you know, and they just backed off a little bit.
And Larry passed away.
Larry passed away.
Yeah.
Albert has so many other things going on, so they just let it go. And plus, it was a lot of legitimate companies got involved, you know, and they lost it, and it died. Business didn't die; they just lost their hand in it, and that's how we got out of the jukebox business. They were strong. Yeah, it was a nickel dime business, but it was so.
Oh, I know.
But it was so many stores, so many people. You know, every restaurant had to have a jukebox. Or a
bowling machine, cigarette machines,
pool table, every bar. Yeah, cigarette machines, pool tables, jukeboxes, and one-armed bandits.
Okay, I knew I was hammered when I was going for the Camel non-filters.
Yeah.
That's when I knew.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on my third six-pack now.
You know, those nickels added up those days. You know what I mean? It added up. Yeah.
I can remember, my grandmother owned a bar in the inner city of Rochester when I was little. And when I would come visit, she would have me play the bowling machine, and she'd give me a dime with a red pen.
Yeah, we did.
And it was,
but we used to get them back.
Yeah. But who went through and took out the dimes with the red paint?
Let's say it was Joey's machine.
Yeah.
Whoever's picking up used to go empty the machines out, and used to go on the bar, or if you're in a candy store, on the counter, and you separate you used to have to roll it up there.
Oh, you rolled the coins right there?
Yeah, we did it right there, because you had to give their end.
Sure.
And you had to take all the marked quarters out. It was a red.
Yep.
And you separated right there. You stood end of the bar or end of the counter, and you did it up.
And I suppose that if there was a bar that didn't want to take the...
No, you had to take it. There was no bar that didn't take it. No.
There was a problem, right? There was somebody would come visit and say, "Yeah, you're doing the wrong thing."
It's a tight neighborhood there, so everyone had their hand to something. If the bar in the corner, even if it was an Irish bar, there was a couple Irish bars still left those days. You know, in that neighborhood, you ain't going to be in that neighborhood and say no. You had to take it. Otherwise, they close you down.
Right.
You'll be gone. It'll be fire. It'll be
You might have a little arson.
A cocktail be that window. You're done. So there was no.
Your bar accidentally fell down last night.
So you really had no trouble getting in it. They knew it. They had to live in that neighborhood. They had to deal with these people. And then
that kind of extortion is what it is.
Right, extortion.
It happened everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, buying your liquor, buying your groceries, going to your bakery.
You got to do that. That's it. You live there. You got to be with these people. What are you going to do? You don't want no trouble. Very rarely. I don't remember. Don't forget, I got the tailings. I was young. But I never remember anybody giving no static in the neighborhood.
Right. Because they're too smart.
They took it. You had to take it. Joey came in for a drink. You going to tell him no? You ain't going to run there? Joey break your face right there in a spot. He had no fear. Doesn't matter who you are. Big guy, small guy. Didn't care.
You know, Joey became a worldwide celebrity.
Yes.
Because he instinctively scared the shit out of people.
Yeah.
He went on national television with the sunglasses and the chain smoking the cigarettes.
Yeah. Joey's an actor.
Knocking over his water glass. Yeah. He's talking to Robert Kennedy.
Yeah.
And the same day Joey testified. Giuseppe Profaci also testified. Nobody cared.
Nobody cared.
Nobody cared. He was just an old man.
Costello, nobody cared. It was Joey Joey put a good show on that
I think
day.
Costello, they remembered because they were allowed to show his hands. Yeah.
Yeah. Joey put a good show on. But
Yeah.
Joey was Joey. I mean, this guy was.
All he did was he pleaded the fifth 150 times and completely transfixed America.
Yeah.
With his gangster style.
Yeah. I remember
Which he stole from Hollywood.
The joke was when he came home, you know, he called Kennedy a real asshole. Yeah, he's the guy. That guy's a real asshole. He called Kennedy.
Well,
I wasn't there for it, but you know, people talk all the time, and they said, "Remember when Joey called him an asshole, Kennedy?" You know what I mean? So he was.
yeah, well,
Joey had no.
Somehow Joey gets into RFK's office, and he says, "Nice carpet. We should have a craps game."
Yeah, he had no fear. He had no fear.
And Robert Kennedy laughs. It's such a ballsy thing to say.
Yeah. He said something about the secretary too. He asked the secretary if he wanted to work for him. Yeah, yeah. Joey was crazy, man. Joey was crazy, but Joey was a functional nut. He was an old school gangster in the 50s and 60s that should have been in the 20s and 30s.
One of the first questions I ever asked you when we first started working together was Joey really nuts? And you said yes, but his insanity had its own intelligence.
Yes, he was very intelligent. Joey was intelligent, man.
And it's like there's like 10 different Joeys in there.
Yeah.
You got the one, here, take my money, Grandma, before I get mad.
Yes.
You got
but he was very violent, but
he was a very violent man.
Cracking him out. Crack right in the mouth, 2 seconds. That's it. He didn't get the right answer, cracking him out. I was with the Gumbaril one time. We were on the roof on President Street, 76 President Street. We had a club there. And we were on the roof, me and Gumbaril that was doing something on the roof. And we looked down between they had the alleyways between the two buildings. And Joey's in with this guy, owed Shylock money, right?
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't paying. The guy was telling Joey, I don't have the money. But Joey said to him, but what does it got to do with me? He goes, when I gave you the money in your hand, you know you're supposed to pay me. He goes, I give you a half an hour, right? The guy says, no problem, Joe. I'll go get it. And he goes, but Joey said, but by the way, here's a gift anyway. And he cracked him. Even if the guy says, I'm gonna come with your money in half an hour. The guy cracked him so hard that the guy wobbled to his car, got in his car, got to the corner of President Street and Van Brunt and hit a Johnny Pump. He passed out and fell, and we had to take him out of the car and wake him up.
Yeah, I could get your money in a half hour that way.
Yeah, Joey cracked him anyway. He was just that way, man. He was just, he didn't take no crap. He was feared. He was feared. Loved by his guys, but feared by everybody else. And he was consistently the same. But now when I sat with Joey smiled. How are you, Frankie boy? I'm good. Where's Daddy? Boom, boom. Squeeze my cheeks until tears in my eyes. They had
That's a little mean too.
Yeah.
That's actually a little mean.
All three brothers had that trait. They would squeeze your cheek until your tears in your eyes. But that was their show of affection. You know what I mean?
That's to make it tough.
Then Joey went to jail, and we kept the block. We kept Red Hook. Red Hook was ours. And we also went on the other side of the Hook. We had 2 bars on the other side, but Anthony's Lounge, and another place called Schmitty's.
When you say the other side, what do you mean?
The Red Hook side.
Okay, yeah.
The other side of where they split it, the project side.
Yep.
The project side. We had 2 bars in there, so we always.
The IKEA side.
The IKEA side now, yeah.
For tourists.
Don't worry, we're picking all the numbers there. Don't forget all those low-income people like to play numbers.
Sure.
25 cents, 50 cents, a quarter.
We call it lotto now.
We took everything, people, older women and men, they used to play 50 cents, a quarter like it was nothing. But it added up.
It's a voluntary tax, but you're paying a different government.
Yeah, so we're always in the Red Hook side picking up money and stuff like that, drinking, No one bothered us on that end because even the garbage there knew that when we came on that side not to play with us. What I mean? They know who you are. Don't forget, it's a tight neighborhood too. As big as it is, they know who you are.
Right.
And then if that guy didn't know who you are, that guy's gonna turn around. That guy's with Joey. Leave him alone. And that was it. They would freeze. That's it.
Yeah. One of the ironies of the book is that you guys on President Street did not have that much to do with the docks.
No.
Just
rob it now and then.
You're on the docks.
Yeah.
So I mean, the book, because the book follows the land rather than the people.
Right.
It only moves over one block, but the subject changes considerably.
The only thing that we do is that a lot of the old Gallo guys were longshoremen. They all started longshoremen. Yeah. Yeah. Punchy started longshoreman. His father was longshoreman.
Oh, yeah.
He worked a little, dabbled in it. Chiraz, Basciano, he was longshoreman. Yeah. There were a lot of guys were longshoremen.
He got busted for robbing a liquor store as a teenager.
Yeah.
Chiraz.
All those guys were.
So things you find out when you're researching a neighborhood.
In the book, we mentioned a lot of them are related. A lot of guys in the Gallo crew were related. They were all cousins. Whose father was married to somebody's mother, like the Bascianos, the Geritanos, the DeLucas, all related. Their fathers married someone. Everyone was related to them. So all those guys came up together, and they're all around the same age.
Did you say Iliano?
Iliano, yeah, Punchy.
Yep.
Yeah, all those guys. So they were working the docks. They were working the neighborhood. You know, they were all born and raised in our side, not the project side, our side.
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
Well, I mean, the difference is really, really dramatic.
It is.
I mean, the block of, what is it, First Place? It's gorgeous.
Beautiful.
The brown stones.
Yeah.
You got the religious sculptures out front. It's just gorgeous. And you walk 200 yards.
And you're in the ghetto.
And you're in a pile of bricks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was a ghetto.
Okay.
No.
Well, anyway.
Good.
The book is fantastic. It's been getting reviewed like you can't believe. It's not just a mob history. It's a history of Brooklyn,
Right.
20th century America, whatever you want there. And read it. You're going to love it. Nobody's had any complaints yet.
No.
They better not. If you like mob books, this is the book for you. Red Hook, Brooklyn Mafia, Ground Zero. Frank DiMatteo, Michael Benson. I'm Michael Benson. And this is probably the best work we've done. Go out and get it right away. You can get it at Amazon.com, or you can go to a bookstore near you. It's got great distribution. Every Barnes & Noble in the world has 5 copies. Go get it now.
We're gonna end this right now. I want to thank Michael for being here.
Thank you so much for having me,
again,
Frank.
And I'll see you in the next book.
Yep.
And I want to thank everybody that came and watched, and we hope the next show will be interesting, and we think we got something good for you. So I just want to thank everybody again.